I moved towards the cliff. The sun sloped. It was morning still. The light not yellow but clear white. Overhead a plane, so far up I could hardly hear it, threading the cities together with its trail of smoke, an X in the sky, unsacred crucifix. The shape of the heron flying above us was the first evening we fished. Legs and neck stretched, wings outspread, a blue-gray cross, and the other heron, or was it the same one, hanging, wrecked from the tree. Whether it died willingly, consented, whether Christ died willingly, anything that suffers and dies instead of us is Christ. If they didn't kill birds and fish, they would have killed us. The animals die that we may live. They are substitute people, hunters in the fall killing the deer. That is Christ also. And we eat them, out of cans or otherwise. We are eaters of death. Dead Christ flesh resurrecting inside us, granting us life. Canned spam, canned Jesus. Even the plants must be Christ. But we refuse to worship. The body worships with blood and muscle, but the thing in the knob head will not. Wills not to. The head is greedy. It consumes, but does not give thanks. I reached the cliff. There were no Americans. I edged along it, estimating the best place to dive. It faced east. The sun was on it. It was the right time of day. I would start at the left-hand side. Diving by myself was hazardous. There ought to be another person. But I thought I remembered how. We took the canoes or we built rafts from strayed logs and board ends. They would often snap their ropes and escape in the spring when the ice went out. Sometimes we would come across them again later, drifting loose pieces broken from a glacier. I shipped the paddle and took off my sweatshirt. I would dive several feet out from the rock face and then swim down and in. Otherwise I'd risk hitting my head. The drop looked sheer, but there might be a ledge underwater. I knelt, facing backwards with both knees in the stern seat, then put a foot on each gunwale and stood up slowly. I bent my knees and straightened. The canoe teetered like a springboard. My other shape was in the water, not my reflection, but my shadow. Foreshortened, outlined, blurred, rays streaming out from around the head. My spine whipped. I hit the water and kicked myself down, sliding through the lake strata, gray to darker gray, cool to cold. I arched sideways, and the rock face loomed up, gray-pink brown. I worked along it, touching it with my fingers, snail touch on slime surface, the water unfocusing my eyes. Then my lungs began to clutch, and I curled and rose, letting out air like a frog, my hair swirling over my face, toward the canoe, where it hung, split between water and air, mediator and life raft. I canted it with my weight and rolled it over one side and rested. I hadn't seen anything. My arms ached from the day before, and the new effort my body stumbled. It remembered the motions only imperfectly, like learning to walk after illness. I waited a few minutes, then moved the canoe further along and dived again, my eyes straining, not knowing what shape to expect, handprint or animal. The lizard body with the horns and tail and front-facing head, bird or canoe with stick and paddlers, or a small thing, an abstraction, a circle, a moon, or a long distorted figure, stiff and childish, a human. Air gave out. I broke surface. Not here. It must be further along or deeper down. I was convinced it was there. He would not have marked or numbered the map so methodically for nothing. That would not be consistent. He always observed his own rules, axioms. On the next try, I thought I saw it. A blotch. A shadow. Just as I turned to go up, I was dizzy. My vision was beginning to cloud. While I rested, my ribs panted. I ought to pause. Half an hour at least, but I was elated. It was down there. I would find it. Reckless, I balanced and plunged. Pale green, then darkness, layer after layer, deeper than before, sea bottom. The water seemed to have thickened. In it, pinpricks, lights flicked and darted, red and blue, yellow and white, and I saw they were fish. The chasm dwellers. Fins lined with phosphorescent sparks, teeth neon. It was wonderful that I was down so far. I watched the fish. They swam like patterns on closed eyes. My legs and arms were weightless, free-floating. I almost forgot to look for the cliff and the shape. It was there, but it wasn't a painting. It wasn't on the rock. It was below me, drifting towards me from the furthest level, where there was no life. A dark oval, trailing limbs. It was blurred, but it had eyes. They were open. It was something I knew about. A dead thing. It was dead. I turned, fear gushing out of my mouth in silver panic closing my throat. The scream kept in and choking me. The green canoe was far above me, sunlight radiating around it, a beacon, safety. But there was not one canoe, there were two. The canoe had twinned, or I was seeing double. My hand came out of the water and gripped the gunwale, then my head. Water ran from my nose. I gulped breath, stomach and lungs contracting, my air sticky like weeds. The lake was horrible. It was filled with death. It was not touching me. Joe was in the other canoe. He told me you went over this way, he said. He must have been almost there before I dived, but I hadn't seen him. I couldn't say anything. My lungs were urgent. My arms would hardly pull me into the canoe. What the hell were you doing? He said. I lay on the bottom of the canoe and closed my eyes. I wanted him not to be there. It formed again in my head at first thought, and I thought it was my drowned brother, hair floating around the face, image I'd kept from before I was born. But it couldn't be him. He had not drowned after all. He was elsewhere. Then I recognized it. It wasn't ever my brother. I'd been remembering that it had been a disguise. I knew when it was. It was in a bottle curled up, staring out at me like a cat pickled. It had huge jelly eyes and fins instead of hands. Fish gills I couldn't let out. It was dead already. It had drowned in air. It was there when I woke up, suspended in the air like above me like a chalice. An evil grail, I thought. Whatever it is, part of myself or a separate creature, I killed it. It wasn't a child, but it could have been one. I didn't allow it. Water was dripping from me into the canoe. I lay in a puddle. I had been furious with them. I knocked it off the table, my life on the floor, glass egg and shattered blood. Nothing could be done.